making music in a way like where it's clear they don't actually care. They don't care what you think of it. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be inside that music, making that. It's another thing to be listening to it, an outsider. I think you've talked about how weird it is when you hear Slater Kinney music, like in different contexts. And
yeah, Slater Kinney is not good sitting around music, I realized. It's like terrible. I think I was getting my hair cut once, and I was just trying to relax, and like this really loud, fast song came on, and I was kind of like, what is this racket? And like a second later, I realized it was Dig Me Out. So much faster than I ever could have imagined, and it feels like someone's, like sliding off the ice the entire time. It's just like, it's very nerve-wracking. It's not, certainly you can't really relax to it. Maybe you could like clean your house. It's kind of like a sonic Adderall or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that what when you came together with the band to make this music, you guys kind of evolved for many years in one direction, and then you talked about what a big deal it was for you to tour with Pearl Jam, and I don't know how big Pearl Jam was here. I think pretty big in America. They were like rock, just mega gods,
like the Beatles.
Like yeah, right? So yeah, they basically. It was really an interesting pairing, you guys opening for Pearl Jam, and I think one that a lot of your fan base might have just been bristling at, perhaps, because Pearl Jam were so mainstream and they were sellouts, probably, But you talked really, in a really generous, cool way in the book about how performing with them night after night really opened you up to, just what incredible musicians Eddie Vedder and the band were. And how it changed your music and how the Woods came out of that. Like, can you talk about that? What was that experience like?
Right, well, so for nearly a decade, we had mostly been headlining, going from small venues to bigger venues, but certainly playing to our crowd. And one of the quickest ways to raise the stakes again is to play to a bunch of people that do not care or know who you are. And we were playing huge amphitheaters and stadiums, and there were probably literally thousands of people in there, but if the capacity is 20,000 and there's 5,000, it feels very empty, and people would kind of slowly walk in and eat hot dogs, and my only goal was to get someone to stop eating a hot dog and to look at us. But that was also, that was slightly futile because people want to eat hot dogs, and so we realized we couldn't count on the audience for reaction or for energy, which was something that we had become accustomed to. If we were tired in the middle of tour, the audience would carry us. The audience was not really giving us much. So we turned inward and we realized that they didn't know any of our songs, so we really didn't have to play our songs the way that we were used to playing them. So we started to expand them and improvise and jam, for lack of a better word. So a 2.5-minute, 3-minute song became a 7-minute song. Everything was unexpected. It was all about listening to one another. It was all about letting something deconstruct and disintegrate on stage, and not being afraid of having, to pick up the pieces again, and not being afraid of that stumbling, which I think really taught us a lot about who we were. And we ended up writing The Woods, kind of carving a song out of something very massive, whereas before we were taking something very concise and succinct and kind of incrementally building a song. It was just like we did this, we sort of splattered something onto the canvas and then found something a little more figurative within it. And it was a very freeing way to write, and The Woods sounded utterly different than anything else we had done, and surprised people, delighted people, alienated people, which is exactly what we wanted to do.
I think that's a great story because it kind of illustrates how if you close yourself off to new things and kind of do things the way that you always have, you're not going to make any progress with your art. You're just going to kind of stay in the same place. And I think that it sounds to me like what you say a lot in this book is, you know, you're starting from a position of being a fan, being an enthusiast. You talk really powerfully about what music has meant to you throughout your whole life. I mean, from the beginning, listening to Madonna, as we all did, you know, and getting into that kind of music.